welcome to the Overtly Consciousness Transforming Podcast for exceptional 21st century living. Folks, we've got a show on manifesting today, and Von Braschler is back with us, and we're talking about his latest book, Manifesting Using Thought Forms to Visualize Real Change. Now, you guys all have heard about The Secret and many other forms of manifesting, but in those books, there's a few things that were not covered so deeply so that you would understand. But guess what? Manifesting by Von Braschler covers it. So we're going to take a deep dive into manifesting today and see how you can change the energy in your life, because it is possible. Now, the information shared on Get Over It uses intuitive and pragmatic insight to help you shift your consciousness to break through the blocks and release energy that is no longer needed. Yes, we're going to help you let go of the BS that's been holding you back. But you guys know I always ask, are you truly ready to? And by the way, folks, BS is belief system. A bit about me for my new listeners: intuitive since birth. I'm a third generation intuitive with over 3 decades of experience supporting people to break through the blocks along their path. I'm a strategist for personal and professional transformation, revealing cutting edge information that enables you to prosper and thrive. I spent 25 successful years in corporate America as an executive sales professional. I am the founder of Healing Visions Ministries and the Northern California Children's Education Network, a 501c3 nonprofit. I provide consultations and healings in all areas of life that heal the mind, body, spirit connection, allowing you to live your very best life. My clients tell me that I keep it real while providing them with accurate information to assist them along their journey as a spirit living a human existence. But they also say, if you really don't want to know, don't ask Monique. My background includes a doctorate in metaphysics, Reiki master teacher, ordained minister, and clinical hypnotherapist. So whether you are stressed, depressed, or possessed, I can help. To find out more about me and the services I offer, go to my website, and that's moniquechapman.com. And I invite you to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. And folks, if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and, give us a little rating, because the more you do, the more people it reaches, and it'll be better for everybody involved. My guest today, Von Braschler, is the author of several books in the area of expanded consciousness on subjects as time travel, creative visualization, dreams, ghosts, and energy healing. He is an award-winning journalist and formerly faculty member of the Omega Institute for Holistic Studies in New York. He has lectured and led workshops throughout the U.S. and the U.K. He makes his home on a small rustic island off the coast of Washington State, and he joins us today to discuss his recent book, and that is Manifesting Using Thought Forms to Visualize Change. You can check him out on Facebook at V as in Victor Braschler, Braschler. Welcome back, Von.
Hi, Monique. How are you?
Hi, I am great. How are you?
Just fine, thank you. Things are good on the island, and it's good to chat with you.
Yay! Well, good things are good over here in this main little land in Northern California. Nice, beautiful, sunny day. Your book, Manifesting, you've written on so many different topics. What was the impetus behind putting a book out on manifesting?
Well, there were a couple of reasons, other than my deep dive interest in exploring and expanding human consciousness, which I think is the most important thing in our lives, is actually getting in touch with our inner self, our higher self, our spirit, our soul, our inner life force, whatever you choose to call it. In Theosophy, we call this the true self within. So my concerns looking at manifesting was that most people have kind of a shallow interest in this, not just personally and for personal gain, but they don't really understand the mechanics of how it works.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And there are missing parts to their approach to it. So I went back to some what I would call primary source material, which is ancient Hindu writings in the area of Raja Yoga or consciousness, and I went to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and some of the more advanced sutras or exercises in that ancient book will show you exercises how to actually use tap your consciousness, align it with higher consciousness, and bring about change in the world around you. Anyone can do this.
Mhm. Well, why do we struggle so much?
We struggle so much because we fail to recognize that to reach this state, if you want to call it a meditative state or a state of a deeper consciousness, we don't seem to realize that we need to tune out our physical body and mind. And most people are just trying to do that as a mental exercise. And I
Mhm.
recognize that even in the yoga tradition, they unfortunately use words like, concentrate, the mind, and we're
Mhm.
really talking about a consciousness that dwells within us, which is beyond the brain, or what people commonly call the mind. So you need to go really deep and really tune this out, and put it to sleep, make it dormant and tranquil and peaceful for just a few moments, to actually let the inner consciousness within you come forward. And then in order to do that, you need to actually um, reach a point within you of inner stillness and darkness. And then you need to actually begin to formulate or visualize what you want to do, or where you want to go, or what you want to see or explore. And you do this visually by creating a picture. I call it making a drawing on a slate inside you. You
Mhm.
visualize the slate, and without words, without thoughts, because you need to tune out your memory bank of words, and thoughts. That's all mental. And you need to actually begin to draw on this slate what you want to see and what you want to explore. And you need to make it doesn't have to be a beautiful picture. It can be like the way I do it with the little stick man. It doesn't matter. I say,
Mhm.
it's like drawing your master plan on the back of a napkin. It doesn't matter, because you'll understand the map, and that becomes your map. Then you tuck it back deep into your super consciousness again, and then you prepare yourself to actually leave and go and project your consciousness to a fixed point in time and a place in time, which can be, back to my earlier book, Time Shifts, can be anywhere in time and space, because
Mhm.
your consciousness is pure energy. It travels at the speed of light, and it's not limited to the laws of physics or your physical body. It can go literally anywhere and any time at the speed of light. And then you bring it forward. And when you bring it forward, then it takes you like an automatic signal, like I call it a post hypnotic suggestion, that when you tuck it in the back of your mind, you give yourself the post hypnotic suggestion that when you bring it forward again, it will instantly serve as a map to take you there. And the third thing I would say that is a failing for most people in manifesting is that when they creatively visualize what they want to see or do or achieve, as far as using thought forms to visualize
Mhm.
real change, is they do not actually visualize achieving this. It is important to remember this formula. First, you conceive, then you believe, and then you achieve. If you don't believe that it's possible, you're not going to have enough energy behind it, because basically, your consciousness is going to leave you with a certain power of the will, if you will, a certain amount of mental and emotional energy. And if you don't have enough
Mhm.
energy behind it, enough faith in it, it's just not going to be. You have to see it actually happen. So you're actually seeing it happen in the future, and then you actually project the thought. And then we know this works. We know this works because there have been examples of people that have done this,
Mhm.
consistently.
Well, it's interesting because did a process similar to this. I've always been good at manifesting for whatever reason, but I did a process similar to this because I wanted a new car. And every time I want a new car, I sit down with my husband, which, some people say is the proper thing to do and discuss finances and this and that and the other. And he always says we can't afford it. And I take that and I throw that away because that's not my vocabulary. So I sat down and I did everything that, you said basically. And I manifested a new car, but I didn't manifest the new car of my dreams. Now,
Yeah.
in real world, everyday mundane living, the chips weren't available for the car of my dreams. Should I have held out longer to wait for that car of my
Well,
dreams?
I include in my book some cautionary tales, and I don't want to say that there's limitations on what you can manifest, but there are limitations on what you can manifest. Let me backtrack here. It has to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
It has to serve a greater good. I mean, do you really need this car?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to deprive somebody else of that car? I remember I remember reading early on of the early adventures of a young mystic, Swami Satchidananda, and his very first book, he describes how his teacher, his master, his guru, if you will, would tell him to go into a small enclosed area and with a gas can, and then manifest gasoline going into the can, and he would come out with a can of gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
And one day the master gave him a suitcase. He says, "Go in there and manifest this case being filled with money." And he went in there and he thought for a minute. He came back out and he handed him an empty suitcase. And he said, "I will not take money that is either counterfeited or has been taken from somewhere else." He says, "I have to think of the greater good,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to think of others in what I manifest." He says, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. And he said, "So I thank you for your previous teaching. Here's your suitcase. Thank you and goodbye." And he left. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really, I mean, we can learn from bad examples and bad teachers as well as good if
Mm-hmm.
our eyes are wide open.
Why don't we have our eyes wide open when we're delving into things like this, like manifesting, or even, looking for a spiritual teacher? So many people just give themselves away without knowing who or what
Yeah.
they're giving themselves away to.
Well, I don't want to exclude our very religious Christian and Jewish friends. So I'll say that in the Old and New Testament of what we call the Bible, I found I found at least 37 references to this admonition: see with new eyes, hear with new ears. And this is what it is. I mean, when we're doing this sort of work, working with our higher consciousness to manifest change in our lives, we have to see with non-physical eyes, new eyes. We have to hear with non-physical ears, new ears. It requires not our five perceptive skills physically, but it requires a new sense of heightened awareness,
Mm.
in,
Well, why?
insight.
Mhm. Okay. Well, there's so many people that, are calling and they're experiencing this heightened awareness, but they're afraid of it. They think it's like the devil or something like that talking
Oh, the
to them.
devil, yes.
How can, yeah, I know, but how can they discern between what is truly their higher selves, like hello, and maybe an energy that doesn't have their highest good in mind?
Well, I did study some what people have written, previously about this subject, and one of them was Alice Bailey, and one of them was
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Hodson, and Blavatsky, and Besant, and Ledbetter. And it's very interesting. You think of like you project your thought forms out there, and as the thought form projects it from the body at the speed of light, if you will, it doesn't always go out. In some cases, it just hovers around you and shrouds you. People say he's lost in his thoughts or he's lost in her thoughts. These are
Mm-hmm.
people that don't really project their thoughts, but they don't really respect their higher thoughts. they just think of them as just like empty um, imaginings inside them,
Mm-hmm.
that their thoughts aren't real and their thoughts don't have direction, their thoughts don't have impact, and they don't really do anything. So they just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a big mushroom cloud hang around you. They hang around you and they wear you down. Then there are people that project their thoughts and they're very visual, like they're typically project thoughts that resemble themselves. So we're always like projecting images of ourselves out there. And this explains a lot of what we call dark um, thought forms.
Mm-hmm.
People who have done ghost hunting, as I have, will encounter so-called haunted houses or buildings or woods, and they'll find like shadowy forms that resemble people, but they're like dark thought forms.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep feeding them. We keep projecting out me. And then there are
Mm-hmm.
people that project out like symbols, like running or other symbols. And this is the way, of course, like dogs and cats and horses will communicate telepathically, is they'll send out
Mm-hmm.
symbolic thoughts, or what we used to call our early language of pictographs. And then there are those that actually have learned how to do this, to actually manifest thoughts into
Mm-hmm.
change, like the work of the Japanese researcher Emoto, author of many wonderful books and videos, The Hidden Messages in Water. Emoto had people creating crystalline structures within water. Now that's alchemy of the highest form of transformation. And then he had children sending healing thought forms and with impact. We have the work of the Maharishi Yoga, who had his students meditating on sending peacefulness, and that's been
Mm-hmm.
replicated around the world in the so-called Maharishi effect, where people have done this and reduced crime levels in the area that they projected their thoughts.
Well, we definitely need that. Now, let's back up a little bit and give a clear, because people struggle with this, give a clear definition on
Yeah.
what is a thought form and how is it created in our thoughts.
Yes. Yes. Well, the thought form is not a form in that it has material substance. It can't be weighed or touched or held, but it is visible to those who can see.
Mm-hmm.
Clairvoyants can see it. Our thoughts leave us with the emotional imprint that we put into it. Our thought forms are, of course, fueled by our subtle energy bodies within us, our emotional body, our causal body, our mental body, our spiritual bodies, and all of these bodies that create the wholeness that is our human identity, other than our physical body. And so, these are the subtle energy bodies, and as the thoughts leave us, then they have colors that are associated with the subtle energy bodies from which they've come. Consciousness exists on all of these subtle energy body levels, and so the energy will vibrate at a different level. It'll be red, or it'll be yellow, or it'll be orange, or it'll be green, and it doesn't really matter, thinking about whether I should project blue light to send someone in stress or in trauma to help them calm down, or green light to heal, or because our bodies are very instinctively good at absorbing and processing energy in the form of light or vibrations, and then sorting it out into what it needs. White light, of course, includes all of the spectrum of colors.
Mhm. How is it that white light includes all this spectrum and black light is basically bad? I
Well,
mean, it kind of goes.
no. Black light is simply the emergence of everything. It is a very occult principle, I find,
Mhm.
that out of darkness all things come. There really is no place you can go or imagine where there is no light. It's light forming there, or light coming there. It
Mhm.
is simply not light. You know, we have to
So it's
think.
all in the void until the light shines
It's
upon
it,
it.
it's better to think of it as a void rather
Mm-hmm.
than darkness, or in the negative sense we think of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
White light holds within it all of the light. So we can't always see a rainbow in the sky. We can generally see or perceive light coming as more or less white. And then it absorbs, it has within it the full spectrum of all of these other energy vibrations. And
Mm-hmm.
we and all other life forms, trees, birds, crickets, will absorb this and naturally transform it. And if we're good at it, we'll be able to project it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, in the book, you talk about people's ability to use creative visualization to project thought forms beyond normal time and space. Could you talk to us about that a little bit? Because that seems to be a
Yeah.
step beyond what we've covered so far.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that your thoughts have no limitations. They can go anywhere. It's documented many times in anecdotes that people are able to send or receive thought forms from a distance, um, even from the past and into the future or around the world at any great distance. People calling out saying, "Oh, I need to talk to you," or "Oh, I'm sick," and I say, and you instinctively, and upon receiving this urgent message, will know,
Hmm.
someone needs me now. Someone's in trouble now. And we'll pick up the phone, or we know that the phone's going to ring, and then it rings.
Hmm.
So you have to recognize that on an energy level, which is what we're talking about, the subtle energy bodies, the our consciousness, are non-physical things. These are pure energy which dwells within us, and not just within us, your dog or your cat as well,
Hmm.
and this energy is non-physical, is pure energy, and as such it can travel any distance at the speed of light, and it is not limited by what we call, it's not grounded to the here and now. It can go anywhere. So I often tell people, that you can go into the past and observe, and send your thoughts there, or into the future. You can also, this is very useful, and you can also go to parallel dimensions, parallel worlds, parallel universes, all of which are accessible to you. But I think for most people, it's just the first step is to learn to do this in what we call the here and now, which is where we perceive us being in time and space. And it's
Hmm.
only our perception of being here in this time and space that puts us in this time and space.
Okay. You mentioned, excuse me, you mentioned earlier telepathy, and in well, folks, in the book, he has numerous exercises on how to do many different things, how to create many different events, if you will, into your life. However, it's important to, get into that quiet space, meditate, loose clothing, have your spine erect, whether you're laying or sitting.
Yes,
So there's a process to it, right?
there's a process,
So,
there's conditioning
mhm,
to how to do it. Now, this is often called meditation. And I think there's a certain baggage to the verbiage here. You could
yeah.
also do this and set it up as a lucid dream, for instance. You could
Hmm.
program a lucid dream. You could also do it as a waking dream, a waking lucid dream, if you will. But it is
Hmm.
a matter of tuning out or quieting or stilling the physical mind and body.
Okay. Well, could you walk us through like doing a telepathic message, whether it's to another person? My dog sits here and she looks at me, and I know she's sending me a message, and I don't get it until I just calm down and just look at her as opposed to thinking, what do you want?
Well, the first, I think the first one, I can't remember the sequence I have, but the first one is like
Hmm.
the urgent telegram. This
Hmm.
is the emergency message, and you're saying, I need to talk to you now, or or you need to know this certain information now, and you send that to someone, and you visualize that person. You visualize that person by creatively drawing a picture on this blank tableau in front of your mind's eye. You're
Mm-hmm.
drawing not with your consciousness. You're creatively visualizing without words or memories. You're visualizing this person, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
visualizing the message going to the person, and then you're visualizing the message, and then you're visualizing them receiving the message. That's the pictogram that you create, and then you put that in the back of your recesses of your consciousness. You prepare yourself then that when it comes back, you retrieve it, it becomes like an instant locator beam, an instant map to take you there. And that when it returns, you will actually go there in your consciousness. So when I say when you go there in your consciousness, you're going there with all your subtle energy bodies filled with consciousness and your
Mm-hmm.
great impact. And so what the thing that is a failing for most people in sending telepathic messages is one, the clarity, and then the definition of what it
Mm-hmm.
is, and then the accuracy. So you need to be rather precise. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't say, well, success. You know,
Yeah,
I
it
work for a
means so
man.
many different
I
things.
work for a man that would have us all get together and all project the thought success. We would
Mm-hmm.
chant success, but specifically, what is the success? So
Right.
when I worked for him, I said the success would be that we increase our production and distribution of books by 20% annually. And we did this group meditation over and over and over. And every year for the 10 years I was there, we did this, because it needs to have clarity.
Yes, it does. And clarity will bring things to you. Now, in chapter 7 in your book, you talk about finding lost objects and
Yes.
people. Can we utilize this to find, like right now in the Bay Area, there's some young lady that's been missing, I don't know, since Christmas. And
Yeah.
nobody's able to find her, whether she's, still present in body or out. Can we
Yeah.
utilize this process to find
Yeah.
people like that, if that's our heart's desire?
Yeah, this is how psychics, if you will work with the police sometimes to find people. Very often they'll
Mhm.
use a combination of this and psychometry, where they'll hold an object, a sweater or a scarf or a glove or something, and that's helpful. Or if it's your dog, the dog's collar or something, or toy, and then yes, and then finding lost objects is actually going there. This borders on, if you will, what is commonly called remote viewing. You're actually going
Mhm.
there and seeing, and then when you get there, you need to look all around and see where it is, and not just see them, not just experience them or get inside them, but you need to actually, once you get there, look around and see where you are, so you know where they are. And then sometimes things are not so easily found in the here and now. So I suggest ways to go back in time to when this person or object was lost, or
Mhm.
go forward in time to when you might actually intersect them in the future. This is also a possibility for finding lost objects. So I used to do workshops with people finding like lost keys or glasses or wallets, and the psychometry works a little bit much the same way, but this is like holding an object, right? An object
Mhm.
identification, the imprint of the energy, and then following the energy like a beacon. But I find that if you visualize what you're looking for, you can send your thoughts to actually go there and see with
Mhm.
these new eyes, this new sense of awareness, where you are. And it's a little uh, new for people to get used to seeing in this way, because I know when I started doing this, I would try to walk around and things, and I realized I had no legs, and I didn't have to worry about like flying through the sky and missing, like tree tops and things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that. We have to get beyond the physical remembrance of our common physical frame of reference. This is a whole new way of traveling and seeing and hearing and observing things. So it is useful to finding lost objects. It is extremely useful. So every now and then, I'll lose keys or my glasses or something or a pen, and I think like, oh no. I'm thinking like, Vaughn, you know how to do this. Sit, spend the time to go through the steps. So I still my body, and I creatively visualize this object, and then I try to visualize where it is, and then I create the picture of me going and finding this object, and then I project out my consciousness and I go there. I actually go there, and then this is not just sending a message, but this is actually, remote viewing, actually going there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, in your book, you also talk about the bounce back effect. What is that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how I use it. How I use it. It was taught to me by my teacher, Louis Gittner, author of Listen, Listen, Listen. The bounce back effect is basically, I think how I did it here was that it's going to impact you. Did I use it in this sense? Okay. There's two ways that I think of the bounce back effect. It is really a profound thing, and it borders on understanding of karma, really. The bounce back effect, that if you go back to yourself, let's say in the past, and you want to project insight and information from another time in your life to your old self, maybe in a previous life or as a child, or if you want to project energy into you or someone previously in an earlier time and place, very often it will, if it's personal, in case of you, then it would be a bounce back effect. Well, you'll experience it now. You'll experience it now. In other words, an insight. You'll be like this new radiance will become part of you now. So it's a bounce back effect. There's also the bounce back effect that I've used as a defensive mechanism when I was being mentally bombarded with let's just say it, like very negative thoughts, and I would just, my teacher Lewis said, just project out pure love, the purest love you can imagine, to whoever is sending it. And of course, you need to visualize who it is, so you have to have an idea, not just send it out there to the great universe, but you project it out to that individual or source. You project just pure love to them. It's, as it was explained to me, it's karma free, whatever that is. I guess it's like, calorie light or something. So yeah, karma free. So you project out this love. And I said, what will happen, Louis? And he said, well, they'll either, depending on their orientation, absorb the light and become a better person and a new person, or they won't be able to handle it. They just won't be able to handle it. So I call this the rubber band snapback.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And they can handle it, and they just implode because it just doesn't compute, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it falls away. Well, Vaughn, we are out of time, but our time has been so precious. What word of wisdom, or words, I should say, of wisdom would you like to leave with our audience today?
Well, that your thoughts are real, your true thoughts. And to find your true thoughts, you need to go deep within yourself to your inner self. And your inner self is always accessible. It is your inner light, your inner life force, your true self. the spirit that dwells within. And to reach that point in you, which is so powerful and so insightful, you still the physical body and mind,
Mhm.
learn to meditate.
Okay. And folks, that's basically it. And you know what? The pandemic has given us time to go within on many levels. Hopefully, we're going to take advantage of that before we get back out there in the world and just make it as noisy as it was before. Folks, we've been speaking with Von Braschler. The book is Manifesting Using Thought Forms to Visualize Real Change. You can check him out on his Facebook page, and that's V as in Victor Braschler, Brashler, and see what he has to offer. He has a lot of books out there. They're all sound, grounded in good information that will help you move forward. He doesn't write about BS, and that's bullshit and fluff. Okay, he gives you the real deal. Vaughn, thanks so much for being here today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Monique. It's been fun.
Yeah, and to the audience, thank you for being with us. I truly appreciate and honor your time and attention. And please remember that the most important choice that you can make is what you choose to make important. Consider making the masterful choice of manifesting using thought forms to visualize real change. Abundant blessings, light, and love to all. Agape.